This podcast was produced by Sean Weston Media. Hello, welcome back.
Welcome back to the cupboard, or our country walk, whichever way you want to look at it.
Let's paint the picture for you a little bit. There are birds tweeting, there are ducks in the pond, there are tractors in the field.
We see there's a duck over there, and there's a moorhen, and there's a cat watching them. I don't like cats. They're taking out British wildlife willy-nilly, basically. Are we allowed to say willy-nilly? Is that like nitty-gritty?
Possibly.
Things you can't say now. One day there will be a dictionary of banned words.
There already probably is, isn't
Probably
there?
already is, yeah. And what I'm getting at here is there are different departments in that pond.
There
Not
are.
necessarily communicating with one another about the imminent threat.
Or interested in what the others are.
Indeed. The moorhen should be talking to the duck, and the duck should be talking to the moorhen. There's a thing over there watching us.
Absolutely.
It's stalking its way through the reeds right now. But they're not. They've decided we don't need our pond trinet.
Pontranet.
I'm going too far with the analogy here, but you can see where I'm coming from.
It's working.
Thank you.
So, what role can communications do in helping these people, or these ducks and these moorhens, to talk to each other?
Yeah.
Why is it important that they do?
Well, they'll be killed. But
Well, I know the moorhens will, but we're in an office environment.
you can break down productivity, you can break down business efficiency. All manner of things can go wrong when you don't communicate, but that's the whole point of this podcast. It's why we do this. We're not always about internal comms. We are about how do you communicate better as a business. And I think this is one of those things where traditionally, I would say from experience, even in small businesses, departments don't talk to one another. And I think there's reasons for that outside of they just don't get on, right? I think there's reasons for sort of human nature. You want to keep your stuff to yourself.
You're in your team.
Yeah, this is our sales team. We don't talk to marketing. It's not necessarily they have any animosity against them. There's just a protectionist kind of thing about your clique, your department.
Yeah, do you think there's also a lack of maybe interest in what the others do?
No, definitely.
So if the poor finance people, no one wants to hear about their spreadsheets and their databases.
We just want to get paid.
They just want to make sure they get paid on time. But this is where good communications can come in. And I guess working as partners with these areas, certainly in the internal comms area, but also external, because those messages might need to go out as well, out of the business, right? I suppose in an external comms world, or you're constantly looking for these stories that do go out and show off your business. You can promote them, aren't you? And it's not always that easy to get that story, is it? That good news story out of someone.
And we're talking about successes, aren't we?
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah.
People who've completed a project and it did really well.
Or you've got a new customer and you want to promote
Yeah.
that and then bring in more customers because, hey, this is a great deal that we've just done. That's hard to pull out. And I know the work that you do, that's a real challenge for you. That's what you spend a lot of time doing, isn't it?
I write a lot of case studies for businesses, and it's remarkable how little sometimes the business knows about the project that was a success.
Exactly.
I've even spoken to someone in a company that didn't know that was the client. They didn't know that they had that client. And yet it had been done and dusted. And yeah, it was a big business. There were about, 600 people in that business, but you still should know. So perhaps there's a lack of, definite lack of communication between departments. And it shouldn't fall down to a professional communicator to try to bridge that gap, I don't think.
No, because I think there's a difference between communications and almost managing your stakeholders, making sure people know who needs to know what, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between that. People should talk to each other because that's how businesses run and work better. That's different from a kind of corporate communications type thing. I think where communicators can come in is they can work with individuals from departments. So you can work with finance to help them understand the audiences that they have, the messaging that they need to get out, and also equip them to do it. Because quite often, and to be quite frank, there's usually one comms person in a lot of businesses, and they haven't got time to write and do everything. So they need to upskill the people to do it, or at least get a plan with them that they can follow, and also get them up to a level of competency that you can just check something and get it sent out, opposed to it being you're doing everything for them.
But encouraging that environment of sharing as well, that we're all in this for the same thing.
Yeah, collaboration.
It's not just a 9 to 5 where you're a salesman and it's everything, isn't it?
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot before. It comes down to kind of culture and your values and your behaviours and what's expected of people when they work for you.
Yeah.
Probably 9 times out of 10, communication is good. Being a good communicator is one of the behaviours that you're meant to have, isn't it?
Yeah. But, if we go back to our duck and our moorhen again, you could easily make the mistake of saying, well, it's just that they don't speak the same language or they don't have the skills. Like you just said,
Yeah.
they don't have the skills to communicate because one speaks in moorhenese
Yes.
and the other one speaks in quack. But what if the duck just decides, I can speak in moorhen, I'm just choosing not to. I'll ignore him. Not that keen. I like my duck environment here. I'm going to keep myself to myself. And I think that happens in business too.
Absolutely. And I suppose, like a lot of people at the moment, they may also just be on mute.
Yeah, I do that, actually. When you're on that round robin email,
Yes.
people are including you for no reason. I love that mute button. If someone says I've missed something, then I'll apologise, but,
I don't think I go a day, because as you know, I'm on a lot of Teams calls on a day-to-day basis. There is not a day that goes by when someone doesn't try and speak on mute.
Right. Oh, you're talking about muting live conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Not intentionally.
I'm talking about when you mute email threads.
Oh yeah, even more.
You don't even need to be on. That's over communicating, which is another episode.
Which is definitely another episode.